Pinocchio, I'm your mother now.
Yay!
As of tomorrow, you'll begin to go to school. Then you'll choose a profession or trade to your liking. What are you mumbling beneath your breath?
I was just saying that it seems a little late for me to start school now.
It is never too late to study and learn.
But I don't want a profession. Work seems like drudgery to me.
Let me tell you that whether one is born rich or born poor, one has the duty to work in this world, to keep busy. Idleness is a horrible disease and must be cured early in childhood.
I'll do everything you tell me because I'm fed up with the puppet's life and I want to become a real boy no matter what. You have promised me, right?
I have promised you. Now, it's up to you.
And so Pinocchio went off to public school. Just imagine the kids when they saw a puppet walk into the class. They laughed and played all sorts of tricks on him. When a boy tried to grab his nose, Pinocchio finally had enough. He kicked him in the shins, and then he elbowed another boy who was laughing at him. After that, Pinocchio won the respect and affection of everyone at school. Even the teachers spoke highly of him. Now it happened that one day while he was walking to school, a group of his comrades approached him.
Have you heard the news? A shark as big as a mountain is shown up in the water not far from here. To the beach to see this German Charlie. Do you want to come? No, not me. I want to go to school. What do you care about school? We'll go to school tomorrow.
You dummy, do you think a big fish like that is going to hang out and wait for you? In an hour we can be there and back.
Well, okay, let's go.
When they got to the beach, Pinocchio took a sweeping look over the sea, but he saw no shark.
Well, where's the shark? He must have gone to breakfast.
Or maybe he hopped into bed for a nap.
Well, what good did it do to make me believe all about the shark?
A lot of good. We made you miss school. Aren't you ashamed of being so well prepared and hard-working?
Students who work hard make those of us who don't like to study look bad.
Really? You really want to make me laugh.
Don't try to be a big shot around here. There are two of us and one of you. Cuckoo. There's going to be trouble here. You're going to get the beating of a jackass.
You'll go home with a broken nose. They'll give you a cuckoo.
In no time, a furious fight broke out. The boys began throwing school books at the poor puppet. Among the books was a manual of arithmetic. I leave it to you to imagine how heavy it was. One of the boys threw it at Pinocchio's head, but instead of hitting the puppet, it struck the head of his own comrade.
Oh, mother, help me. I'm dying.
He fell full length in the sand. The other boy ran off in a hurry, but Pinocchio stayed behind. A policeman approached the scene, and since the math book had his name on it, Pinocchio decided to run off as fast as he could. He ran and ran and ran until he got to the fairy's house and gave a faint little knock. He waited and waited until at last, after half an hour, a window opened on the top floor. The house had 4 floors, and a large snail with a little lighted lamp on her head looked out.
Who is it at this hour? The fairy is sleeping and does not want to be awakened.
It's me, Pinocchio, the puppet who lives with the fairy.
Ah, I see. Wait for me. I'll come down right away.
Hurry up, for pity's sake, I'm freezing.
Oh, my boy, I am a snail, and snails are never in a hurry.
An hour passed, then 2 hours, then midnight struck, then 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Losing all patience, Pinocchio knocked and knocked, then backed up and let go a whopping kick at the door so hard that his foot went halfway through it and got stuck. In the morning at dawn, the door finally opened. To come down from the 4th floor to the front door, the snail had taken 9 hours. She really had worked up quite a sweat.
What are you doing with your foot stuck in the door?
It was an accident, please. Please, can you bring me something to eat? I feel faint.
Right away.
3.5 hours later, the snail brought Pinocchio a silver tray from the fairy with bread, roast chicken, and 4 apricots. But when he began to eat, Pinocchio saw that the bread was made of chalk, the chicken of cardboard, and the apricots of painted alabaster. In despair, Pinocchio fainted. When he finally came to, he found himself stretched on a sofa with the fairy by his side.
Dear little Pinocchio, I will forgive you again this time, but you must go back to school again, and it will be too bad for you if you play another one of your pranks.
Pinocchio promised and swore to study and always behave himself, and he kept his word throughout the rest of the school year. In fact, he worked so hard that he became the best student at his school.
Pinocchio, you have kept your word and focused on your work. Tomorrow at last, your wish shall be granted. You are to stop being a wooden puppet and become a real boy.
All his friends, the schoolmates were invited the next day to a grand breakfast at the fairy's home to celebrate. The fairy made preparations for 200 cups of cafe lattes and 400 buns buttered on the inside and outside. In just about an hour, all his friends had been invited. Now, among his schoolmates, there was one whose name was Romeo, but everyone called him Lampwick because of his scrawny little frame like the wick of a lamp. He was the laziest boy at school, and Pinocchio found him hiding under the desk at a neighbor's house.
What are you doing there?
I'm waiting to run away.
But don't you know about the great event tomorrow? I'll stop being a puppet and become a real boy.
A lot of good, mate, do you? I told you, I am living.
Where are you going?
I am going to Funland. Why don't you come too? There's no schools, no teachers, and no books there. They never study in that blessed land. Vacation begin the 1st of January and end on the last day of December. The days go by playing good times from morning to night. And now that's how all civilized countries should be. In a little while, the wagon's coming to pick me up. Do you want to live with me? Yes or no?
No, it's no use for you to tempt me, but I've promised my fairy to be a sensible boy, and now I don't want to go back my word, but is it really true that in this land the kids never have to study?
Never.
What a wonderful land!
At last, the wagon arrived. It It was drawn by 12 pairs of donkeys. The most curious thing was they all had men's shoes on their feet. The driver of the wagon was a little man that was always smiling.
And you, my love, are you coming with us or staying?
I'm staying. I want to go home and I want to study and do well in school.
A lot of good may it do to you.
100 or so voices from inside the wagon called out, "Come away with us and we'll have a wonderful time." Pinocchio didn't answer, but heaved a sigh, then another sigh, then a third sigh.
Fine. Make room for me. I want to come too.
The next morning they arrived at Funland. Groups of kids were playing everywhere. Some playing balls, some riding bicycles. Here some played tag, there others dressed as clowns. Some were acting, some were singing, some were doing somersaults. Some played with sticks. In short, there was such pandemonium that you needed cotton balls in your ears to keep from going deaf.
Oh, what a beautiful life.
Do you see now that I was right? It's only roof fans who can do such favors.
That's true. And can you imagine? Our teacher used to say, "Don't go around with that rogue Lampwick. He's bad company."
I knew she didn't like me, but I'm noble-minded, so I forgive her.
Magnanimous soul.
5 months went by in this life of ease that was passed in fun and games all day long, when one morning Pinocchio had a rather disagreeable surprise. He scratched his head, and to his great amazement, he noticed that his ears had grown. Not finding a mirror, he filled the sink with water, and what he saw, he would have never wanted to see. He had donkey ears. He began to cry and scream. Ah! Being ashamed to show his donkey ears, he put on a large cotton hat and stuck it on his head. He went to look for Lampwick and knocked on the door. Lampwick also had a cotton cap on his head.
Why do you have that hat on your head?
The door ordered it because hit myself in the knee. And why do you have that hat on your head?
The doctor ordered it because I scraped my foot, just out of curiosity, you know. Have there ever been anything wrong with your ears?
No,
Just asking.
no, never. And you? No.
No, never. Except this morning. Lampwick, let me see your ears.
First, I want to see yours.
No, yours first. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
They saw that each other had donkey ears and laughed and laughed and then became silent.
Help, Pinocchio. Help. I can't stand up.
Me? Oh, neither me. Oh.
open, the little man burst in with a violent kick. He patted the donkeys, put halters on them, and led them to the market. Lampwick was sold to a peasant whose jackass had died the day before, and Pinocchio was sold to the manager of a circus. Now do you understand what the trade of this little man was? This revolting little monster would go traveling far and wide with his wagon, pick up all the boys who didn't like school, and drive them off to Funland so they could spend all their time in games and amusement. When they turned into donkeys, he took them and sold them at fairs and markets. Pinocchio's new owner was a circus manager who taught him how to jump through hoops and dance standing on his hind legs. Whether he liked it or not, Pinocchio had to learn these tricks, but it took him months of training and a lot of whippings. Finally, the day of the big circus show came. The house was crammed full of children of all ages who were in fever of excitement waiting to see this famous donkey Pinocchio. Pinocchio danced and jumped through hoops. He ran out to an explosion of cheers. Pinocchio looked into the stands and saw a beautiful lady wearing a golden chain from which hung a medal. And on the medallion was the portrait of the puppet.
That's my portrait. That's my dear fairy.
But all that came out of his mouth was a bray so loud and long that it made all the spectators laugh. The manager, in order to teach him a lesson not to go around braying in public, gave him a rap on the nose with the handle of his whip. The poor donkey licked his nose trying to wipe away the pain he felt, and when he looked up again, the fairy had vanished.
Now you'll show the ladies and gentlemen how gracefully you can jump through the hoops.
Pinocchio made a leap and went through the hoop. His hind legs got caught and he fell to the ground. When he got up, he was lame and could hardly make it to the stable. And so the following morning, the master sold Pinocchio for 20 pennies to a man who bought him for his hide, as he wanted to make a drum with it. The man led the donkey to the seashore, put a stone around his neck, and tied one of his legs with a rope and gave him a shove into the water. Pinocchio sank to the bottom, and the buyer sat down on a rock, holding the rope tightly in one hand. He gave the donkey all the time he needed to drown, so that he could skin him and remove his hide. After the donkey had been under the water for 50 minutes, the man dragged him up by the rope. He pulled and pulled and pulled, but instead of a donkey, he saw come to the surface a live puppet. The awestruck man demanded to know what had happened to the donkey pushed into the water, and Pinocchio explained.
My mother is a fairy. When she saw me in danger of drowning, she sent a big shoal of fish around me to eat me up. When they finished eating all the donkey bark that covered me, they came to the bone, or rather the wood. Disgusted by such indigestible food, they went off.
Then Pinocchio took a great leap, splashed into the water, and swam away.
Farewell! If you ever need me to skin a drum and make it for you, think of me.
As he was swimming, Pinocchio saw a rock made of white marble in the middle of the sea, and on top of the rock was a pretty little she-goat who was bleating tenderly and beckoning him to come. The curious thing was that the goat's hair was blue. He began swimming towards the rock when suddenly there rose from the water the horrible head of a sea monster that came at him with his mouth yawning like a chasm. The sea monster was none other than the giant shark. dead, dazed, and in total darkness. Pinocchio set out gropingly, feeling his way along the inside of the shark, advancing one step at a time towards a faint light he saw glimmering far, far off. When he finally got to it, he saw a table laid for a meal with a burning candle stuck in a green glass bottle, and seated at the table was a little old man who was chewing on some small, live fishes. At that sight, Pinocchio was seized by a great and unexpected joy, and he practically became delirious.
Oh, dear father, at last I found you. I'll never leave you again. Never, never, never.
Then my eyes do not deceive me. You're really my own dear Pinocchio.
Yes, yes, it's really me. How did you manage to survive here all this time?
The same storm that upset my boat that day you last saw me from the seashore also caused a merchant ship to sink. All the sailors were saved, but the shark, who had a splendid appetite that day, after swallowing me, also swallowed the ship. And quite fortunately for me, the ship was loaded with preserved meats and biscuits and bottles of wine, raisins, cheese, coffee, sugar, candles, and matches. With all that bounty from heaven, I've been able to survive for 2 long years. But now, I'm down to the end. There's nothing left. And this candle is the last one that I have.
And then?
And then, my dear boy, we'll both be left in the dark.
Then there's no time to lose. We must escape through the shark's mouth.
But I don't know how to swim.
I'm a strong swimmer. You can get on my shoulders and you'll be safe and sound to the shore. Follow me. Don't be afraid.
With these words, Pinocchio took his father by the hand, and together they went again through the monster's throat. Then they traversed the length of his tongue and surmounted his 3 rows of teeth. Geppetto got on his son's shoulders, and Pinocchio fearlessly threw himself out into the water and began swimming. The shark went on sleeping soundly. Pinocchio swam hurriedly, while with his father astride his shoulders, shivering. Pinocchio swam and swam until they reached the shore.
Father, lean on my arm. Let's go and search for somebody who might give us a piece of bread and some straw to lie on.
Now they hadn't gone 100 steps when they saw 2 ugly mugs sitting by the side of the road, begging for alms. It was the cat and the fox. But they were no longer recognizable from before. The cat, who had pretended for so long to be blind, had ended up really going blind. And the fox was now old and mangy, completely paralyzed on one side, and didn't even have his tail anymore.
Oh, Pinocchio, give some alms to us poor invalids.
Farewell. You've tricked me once. You won't trick me again.
Believe me, Pinocchio, now we're poor and miserable. For real.
It serves you right. As the proverb goes, stolen money brings no gain. Farewell.
And with that, Pinocchio and Geppetto continued on their way until they saw a charming hut and knocked at the door.
Who is it?
It's a poor father and a poor son without bread and without roof over their
heads.
Turn the key, and the door will open.
Pinocchio turned the key, and the door did open. He didn't see it first, but then looked up toward the ceiling and saw the talking cricket.
You're right, dear cricket. Throw a hammer at me now, too, but have pity on my poor father.
So I'll have pity on the both of you. I just want to remind you that in this world we must be kind to everybody if we want to be repaid with equal kindness in time of need.
You're right, dear cricket. More than right. And I'll remember the lesson you've given me, but will you tell me how you managed to buy this charming hut?
This hut was given to me as a gift by a goat with beautiful blue hair.
And where is the goat?
She's never coming back. She went away yesterday, quite sad and bleating, as if to say, "Poor Pinocchio, I'll never see him again." By now, the shark must have eaten him up.
Then it was really her. It was really my dear fairy.
He had a good cry, and then dried his eyes and made Geppetto a nice bed of straw.
Tell me, Cricket, where can I find a glass of milk for my poor father?
3 fields to the left, there is a cow. The farmer has cows that will give you milk whatever you need.
Pinocchio went on, but he didn't have any money to pay for milk, and so the gardener had Pinocchio draw 100 buckets of water from a well in order to pay. Pinocchio was dripping with sweat from head to foot. He had never before worked that hard. The gardener told Pinocchio that his donkey normally did this job, but the poor creature was now near death. Pinocchio went into the stable and saw a little donkey stretched out on straw, worn thin from hunger and too much work.
I'm sure I know this donkey. Who are you?
I'm on point.
Lamprey, that's who it was. Then he shut his eyes and died. Pinocchio wiped a tear, took his glass of milk, and went back to the hut. From that day on, he got up faithfully every morning at dawn, earned a glass of milk for his father. But he didn't stop at this, for in his spare time, he also learned to weave baskets, and with the money he earned, he provided very sensibly for their daily needs. Among other things, he built a little cart all by himself to take his father out on nice days to get a breath of fresh air. And during the evening hours, he practiced his reading and writing. He not only succeeded in keeping his ailing father in reasonable comfort, he was even able to put aside 40 pennies to buy some new clothes for himself. When he was outside, he heard a voice call him by name. Turning around, he saw the snail, who was the maid for the fairy with the blue hair.
Tell me, pretty little snail, where is my good fairy? My dear Pinocchio, the poor fairy is in the hospital.
Really? If I had $1 million, I'd come and bring it to her, but I only have 40 pennies. Here, I was on my way to buy myself some clothes, but bring them to the fairy.
Contrary to her usual custom, the snail darted off like a lizard. Pinocchio returned home to his father.
Where are your new clothes?
I couldn't find any that fit, but that's all right. I'll buy some another time.
That night, Pinocchio stayed up working until after midnight, and instead of making 8 baskets, he made 16. Then he went to bed and fell asleep and dreamed that he saw the fairy, all smiling and beautiful, who gave him a kiss and spoke to him.
Well done, Pinocchio. Because of your good heart, I forgive you of all this mischief you've done up to now. Boys who take loving care of their parents do deserve a great deal of praise and love, even if they cannot be commended as models of obedience and good behavior. Be sensible and good in the future, and you'll be happy.
Here, the dream ended, and Pinocchio woke up with eyes wide open. Imagine his amazement when, upon awakening, he found that he was no longer a wooden puppet, but a real boy. Jumping out of bed, he found a new suit of clothes, fitted to perfection. In the pocket was a little ivory money case on which these words were written.
The fairy with blue hair returns the 40 pennies to her dear Pinocchio and thanks him so much for his good heart.
Then he went to look at himself in the mirror, and he thought he was somebody else. In the next room he found Geppetto as cheerful as in his former days, already taking up his trade of woodcarver again.
What is the cause of all this change?
It's all your doing. When children go from bad to good, they have the power of making things take on a bright new look inside, within their families too.
And where's the old Pinocchio of wood?
Geppetto pointed to a large puppet propped against a chair, its arms dangling and its legs crossed, so that it was a wonder it stood up at all. Pinocchio turned and looked at it.
How funny I looked when I was a puppet, and how glad I am now that I've become a real boy.
If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.